Welcome back to Golden Roll Radio. It is the middle of the week, Wednesday, May 16th, middle of May, and we have gold hitting the middle of the support level we have been talking about around the 1285-86 level, bouncing off of some key support levels. And the dollar is rallying into a new high in the mid 93s. So there's correspondence obviously going on with the dollar index and gold. And it looks like the dollar index rally could be starting to peter out, which would correspond to gold hitting this support level, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, Robert, with gold pushing below that 1302 we've been talking about for a couple weeks, coming down to that 1285 fib level, I'm pretty excited to see gold show what's probably a bottom here. Now, the question ends up being, do we turn around? You know, when markets change direction, it tends to be pretty aggressive. So if we are going to see a pretty immediate turnaround here, I'd expect to see gold up over 1302 by like tomorrow or the next day at best. If it ends up lingering in the high 12, low 13 numbers, we could see a double bottom here around 1285 or maybe a few bucks lower. And that would be a great opportunity to jump in on this next up wave. And like always, we're looking for those steps up the stairs where we can get in at a bottom price and ride the next move up. And this next move up probably pushes us above 1400.
So one thing we have to point out, guys, before we talk too much about this price movement, we can focus as much as we want on the technicals. There's still manipulation out there. An hour before the open in the market yesterday, 13,500 futures contracts were dumped in less than a minute, almost $2 billion worth of gold. So again, keep that in mind as we sit there and look at these things with a little retrospection.
And that was Tuesday morning, May 15th, if you go back and look at the chart.
I still think this is an entry point right now. So yes, we can wait and see if support holds here. But the fact that we broke below that 1300, that was a major psychological level. You now have a few indicators that are telling you that the high 1280s are going to be even stronger support, in my opinion, right? And so from a fib number that you mentioned, the long-term moving averages. So if it doesn't hold here, then yeah, you're going to have a future opportunity to cost average in, but this is an entry point for me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, a double bottom's a double bottom. It just means we could come back to the same levels. So there's not necessarily a reason to wait. If you've been sitting on the fence at 1330, 1320, 1305, now we're at 1285, the likelihood of lower numbers is always a possibility, but every time you get a little bit lower, the opportunity gets less and less likely. And we know where this is going ultimately. So with a lot of focus on the dollar pushing back up, you know, we've been talking about, and Robert's certainly been following the dollar charts as we've had this corrective move back up. When that resumes its trend, when gold resumes its trend, anytime you can say, hey, 1305 is a good price, but I got in at 1290. 1290 is a good price. I got in at 1285. When we're at 1420, 1430, the next fib level's up. You're not going to remember that last $5-10.
I think, too, people try to predict what gold's going to do, and if you're really going to be accurate in this type of a market with where gold is headed from a spot price standpoint, you have to look at the U.S. dollar, and you guys keep reiterating that. Well, the U.S. dollar traders, experts out there that know a lot more than I do, are really feeling as if this dollar rally is going to run out of steam. There's not a lot of legs behind it.
So with the dollar possibly petering out on the rally, gold price possibly turning around here at the key support level of 1285, silver having support just above 16, which is positive, and then platinum not pushing yet down below its previous low of 880. You have a very high probability that you could be seeing reversals here in these markets we're watching, right?
Yeah, and I think all of this hangs on where the dollar goes. I mean, Mnuchin was pretty clear we want a weaker dollar. Trump has been pretty clear we want a weaker dollar. So you're going to have these price reversals from time to time that may last a month, 2 months. Markets don't always go in one direction, but trends do. So when you have these reversals in price on the dollar, you know, we've seen 93.5 now, we're close to it. Sure, we could see a little bit higher, or like Robert said, we could see that turn right now. And with the dollar coming into some resistance levels, gold, silver, platinum, all at support lines, it's very likely we could see something happen in the precious metals market as well as the currency markets here, pretty aggressive over the next week.
I also feel real strongly that we're going to see a Fed rate hike either May or June. And again, correlated to the U.S. dollar, we will see an impact certainly on the dollar strength. We'll see an impact on the precious metals prices, as always with every other rate hike. And the reason I feel so strongly is it's on every headline just about, and they're saying that inflation's not high enough, so they're going to raise rates, and they're saying in some sectors inflation's too high, so they're going to raise rates, and all it's telling you is subconsciously they're going to raise rates.
Jumping over to the equities market, this week was expiration week. We had some volatility coming in yesterday on Tuesday, and we're right here in the middle of May. The whole saying that we said a couple weeks ago, sell in May and go away. I think it's very likely stocks are overbought right now and ready for a short-term peak anyway. So that's what's going on here in the middle of the week with stocks, as well as the retail earnings that Miles wants to talk about.
Yeah, Robert, for most of May, the equities price has actually been up, but it hasn't gotten very far. I mean, it's just been compressing into its own little channel it's been stuck in since really like March. So we did have some earnings reports. I noticed today, Wednesday, I believe Macy's was up like 10 or 12%. So there's some retail sales numbers that are looking pretty good. But if you look at the Dow as a whole, we're not up very much today. In fact, we're nowhere near the high we hit in the Dow a couple days ago. So even with some earnings reports coming out and some retail sales numbers looking exceptionally good, as a whole, the equities market is still pretty much doing not much of anything. I agree. I think that it's run its course for May. We're halfway through May. It's been up most of this month. It looks like it hit an interim high. And I definitely think the equities market is coming back down to 23.6 or even lower on this next move down. So the question then is, when do we break down and resume our water slide?
Keep in mind, too, that good earnings do not equal good economy. So please remember that. That doesn't mean that spending is way up. We have had multiple stories told of closings of retail outlets. So they can improve earnings by tightening the belt and reducing expenses. And that's what they're doing in the job force.
Yeah, that's a good point. You could look at GAAP versus non-GAAP reporting. And, if you don't know what that is, go look it up, GAAP.
Yeah, but the problem with that is even when you're selling out your brick and mortar companies and laying off a bunch of employees just to make your numbers look better, or in the case of Toys R Us, spend a few years keeping those brick and mortar buildings open, but then using Amazon to fulfill all of your orders, eventually you reach a point where you have to sell all your intellectual properties off. So if anybody's in the market to buy the IP for Jeffrey the Giraffe, I believe Toys R Us has that for sale.
Bankrupt. All right, before we close, you guys, let's touch on the hot buttons of the world right now from a political and geopolitical standpoint. So Kim Jong-un this week calls off the talks with South Korea and is angry about the U.S.-South Korean military exercises, and he's threatening to call off the talks with the U.S. Is he buying time? Was this all just a farce? I guess that's going to play out.
Yeah, Trump seems pretty broken up about that one. Well, and let's not forget both the celebrations and turmoil taking place in the Middle East right now, the opening of the embassy in Jerusalem, as well as the 70th year celebration since the Reformation of Israel, creating Israel as its own nation state. As that was taking place, obviously, in Jerusalem under what I would guess was pretty aggressive security, we did unfortunately continue to see bombings and issues taking place over in Tel Aviv, probably as protests. So the Middle East continues to be a hot button we have to focus on, and obviously its effect on oil pricing and some of the geopolitical positioning that it has in the world between the oil and Europe.
Yeah, our media does a really good job of just barely covering what's going on over there, but you really have Israel at war with Iran right now. The nuclear pact was disintegrated and dissolved by Trump, and since then you've had bombings in Syria against Iran and Iran against Israel. So again, do your homework, dig deeper, and know that really it's not nearly even as peaceful as the headlines are reporting.
Well, and the media is always like a referee. They always see the guy retaliating. So let's not forget that.
That's the Middle East, and this is the middle of the week in the middle of May, so we're going to go away. Thanks for listening today. You can follow us on Twitter at ICA Gold. You can subscribe to us by clicking the button below. Call us at 800-525-9556.
Thanks for listening. Have a good week.